Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video, we'll be going through the Essendon versus North Melbourne game in which, Essendon just smoked them in the end. I thought there was promising signs for North Melbourne. They actually played really good for 3 out of the 4 quarters and pretty good for the first half. I mean, they probably just got outplayed in total for probably 35 minutes. And 35 minutes was the game in general. That they lost it, but if you look at the 35 minutes that I'm talking about or referencing, it was kind of the last 5 minutes of the first quarter, and I think it was the whole third quarter. But aside from that, I thought they were in the contest. I mean, they won the second quarter 4-4 to 4-2 to 3-3, so they won that by 5 points, which is a fair effort. But in the the first quarter, they lost the last sort of 5 minutes. A good, 1, 2, 3. They lost the last 5 minutes, something like 3 goals, maybe even 3 goals won, to one behind in 5 minutes. So they lost the last 5 minutes by about 18 points there. And then in the third quarter, they lost 8 goals to 2 goals. So they lost 6 goals there. So they lost by 40 points, but in those sort of 35 minutes, they lost by 50 odd points or so, I would think. Just looking at that, they lost 8 goals to, which is 50 points to 2 goals, so that's 38. And then we talked about the 18-point gap at the end of that. So they lost 35 minutes worth of action by 56 points. And aside from that, they actually won the rest of the game. So when we talk about North Melbourne, and I know the last quarter was sort of dead, but there are signs of progress. I just think that their list dynamics and their list management has been so out of whack that they basically did what I hope Richmond don't do, and they've neglected key position players, and that's the reason why they're in such a bad position, because they have no key position talent, and they have just basically midfielders and wingmen, and they're using wingmen off half-back because they have so many of them, and they're using small forwards off half-back as well. And now they're using their midfielders all around the ground because they've got 6 midfielders, and they effectively have about 6 midfielders and about 6 wingers out there. And then they've got 4 talls. That's it, including the ruckman. So it just, I think, is 5 talls or something, and including the ruckman, and 3 of them are 3 games into their career. So, a combined 10 games between a lot of the talls. So, it's just a little bit off for North Melbourne with their list dynamics, and that's the reason why they're struggling. But anyway, before we get into this video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into this recap, as it's been already 3 minutes, so I might want to scramble through this. Peter Wright, never going to do that again, so disregard that, to be honest with you. Caldwell 105, back to his best. I think that midfield role is possibly there for him. Yet again, I'd need to double check that, and that'll be something that I double check for the trade targets video. As Caldwell 105, he could be an interesting one to grab. 749k, I believe, at the moment, with probably a much even break even. So he's one that you can consider. Perkins 100, I thought he as well is another one that's sort of, and this is the hard part about Essendon in general, and I will fly through the rest of them because it sort of undermines this whole natural thing with Essendon. Is they have a lot of forward mids, and it's almost like what Heaney, Papley and stuff were last year, this same sort of thing, that it's hard to predict who's going to do well. I think both of these guys could average 90 for the rest of the season, but 90 from a Caldwell and a Perkins, is it going to be top of the line now that we've got Heaney, Flanders, Zorko, Fisher, Sexton even to a certain degree, and then also Luke Jackson when he plays number 1 ruck. You also have Tom Powell, who has I think it's going to be sort of a similar role to what these guys are doing. So it's a very, very, honestly, it's hard to predict what's going to happen there. So I wouldn't say necessarily jump on them. Nick Martin had an off game, went to half forward in the second half, obviously, and that kind of destroyed him. But 95 from him is still almost in itself a top of the line top defender. It's still top 8 defender average. So and he's still got bigger buffer games to have behind him as well. McGrath, Guelphy, Redmond, Heppel, Redmond, Merritt got tagged and he still put out a 78. So it was a fair effort from him. I think he put out a 100 in Supercoach. Huge guy that just is so efficient. Kelly, Stringer, Sardis. Sardis I thought actually had a pretty good game, so watch this space with him. As he's not really similar thing with McRae. Obviously not going to leave the club like Finn McRae, but like Finn McRae with Collingwood. But an interesting one as he seems to starting to be developing. I think, and something that I want to also introduce potentially is a sort of a mid-round update with the VFL. I want to start that maybe next year with the VFL and sort of going through the players that are going really well. Durham, Gresham, Hine, Mackay, Goldstein, Laverde, Hobbs, Davey, Jones, Langford and Shield. Langford actually had a pretty poor game just because he got taken out of the game. Well, not taken out of the game, sorry. He got locked down by... Who was it? Someone did a really good job on him from North, which was actually surprising and really, really promising. Fisher 1-2-1, he got so much of junk ball at the end here. 52 in the last quarter. His role is so good down back. Sheasel 119 for all those saying, he shouldn't be, he's going to be poor. And I almost am in that same category. His role from mid forward, he really just put himself behind the ball at points. He was sort of just in the same role, just lined up in a different place. It was really, really weird. But I guess the role is still there for his point scoring. As a defender, if he's gone, what has he gone? 280 in the last 3 weeks. That's still 93 average. That's still cusping top 10. Sorry, cusping top 6. It's a top 8, top 9 sort of scoring. So yeah, he's right up there. David Juniak, 113. He was really, really good. And really, really efficient. Kicked 2 goals as well. So he was good, really good. Sherry, 98. And yeah, one of the big misses of the season. And something someone brought up as well. I think it was Moreira's brought up in one of his tweets that I saw is that actually my logic behind Ruckman I think was a little bit off. And that these ruckmen that are first time solos actually seem to do really well, especially when they get a large chunk of games. We're seeing this with now Lloyd Meek, Tristan Sherry, so maybe there is a little bit of adjustment with Sherry still to come, and stuff like that. And when I look at ruckman, Scott Powell, Scott is horrific. I think he just turned the ball over a good amount of times. Powell 85, and I'll actually check that whilst going through this. Powell 85, I thought he had a better game than what the stats sort of say. 85, I thought he was pretty good out there, but it was just he just didn't get the ball enough. We'll see. 11 turnovers for Bailey Scott. What are you doing with him off using the ball so much? Why is Bailey Scott getting 27 disposals when 11 of them are turnovers? He's turning the ball over, what's that? Roughly 40% of the time. You just cannot have that when disposal efficiencies usually are around that 75%. He's disposed of it at 70%, which is slightly below. But I'm pretty sure his career stats, they all say he's above average. But then when you look at efficiency, I believe it starts to season average, more stats, I believe. Let me just see. His season average, his disposal efficiency, 74% is below average. Kicking efficiency, below average. You know, it's just all these little things that just show that his kicking efficiency was, what was it? It was 52%, and it was 50% last week. So it just shows that he's not kicking the ball well. He's kicking the ball so poorly in this position, and I just don't know what they're doing there. I think they need to... Tucker, I think Fisher is turning around. Even look at Stevens, I think that was a poor buy as well. I think this one's got away with murder, getting picked 32 or 34 for him, or the equivalent of. Tucker, Comboon, McDonald, Stevenson, Wardlaw, Taylor, Shields, Larkey, Core... All these guys just mean nothing for fantasy, basically, because they're all key position or guys that just don't sort of impact players in a sense. Wardlaw, I'm surprised, hasn't developed yet. He's going to be one that is going to be heavily talked about and all us content creators are going to do it, in the natural progression or improvement category next year to take a 20-point jump or 15-point jump from 75 to 90. That's exactly what's going to happen. So wait and bookmark this moment. Been saying it all along, and I've almost been one saying he could take that step anyway. Well, we're all going to do it and say, I wonder what the range is going to be, honestly. With him, I'm predicting some people are going to put him down for a 90 to 95 point improvement, because we're all optimistic. But yeah, it's going to be funny to rewatch this George Wardlaw moment. Curtis Taylor, Shields, Larkey, Cord, Zerha, Pink, Curtis, Bergman, Dawson, Ford. Lazaro got subbed out, and then about 2 minutes later, I think Bergman went down with an injury. So yeah, it sucks that Bergman went down with an injury. I thought he actually played all right, except for didn't do anything in the third and fourth quarter, as he did go down into the rooms in the third quarter, I believe, and basically didn't play a part after that. And then Dersma, he's a learning talent, and just not going to do much on the North Melbourne side. And this is what key forwards, well, not key forwards, but the sort of medium forwards happen. They sort of get that graveyard shift. But anyway, that is the video there going through Essendon versus North Melbourne. I think North Melbourne, they just need to keep drafting tools. As simple as that. Keep drafting tools, put them in the VFL, and just make them develop, because they have way too many wingmen and halfbacks and midfielders at the moment. Keep drafting tools. Potentially even get a Smiley and just play him as a half forward. Play him as a third tall, honestly, in his first year. Play him as a third tall, so that you have two talls, two actual genuine tall forwards. You have a Smiley as your third tall. You have Paul Curtis as your fourth. You have Zane Dersma as your fourth. Paul Curtis as your fifth, and then you have a small ball guy as your sixth. That would be a much better forward line for North Melbourne, and I think it would do well. I mean, it would suck for fantasy because Smiley is a really ball collector, but if you can just bleed him in with 20-30%, because he is going to be a really good midfielder come his day, but you kind of need 3 or 4 years of, I think, just he can play as forward for 3 or 4 years. Honestly, it's really, really it's really, really awkward for North Melbourne, to be honest with you, just because they're in a position where they've got everything they need from the top end draft picks. They need just the bottom end draft picks, which take longer to develop. So they've kind of got their time scale just completely off. So yeah, it's going to be bad for North Melbourne, I think, unless these guys can somehow step it up, this group around this midfield group, because the midfield's going to get better, but I don't know about the outside portions of it. But anyway, that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the last video of today, going through the mid-afternoon game between, Hawthorn and Port Adelaide, that comeback that I didn't get to watch because I was out, which kind of sucks, but I've sort of heard about it, etc. But I'll see you guys in that review there. Bye, guys.